Welcome to the Exceptional Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Anita Brooks, and here you'll find teaching topics, interviews, conversations, and coaching tips, all designed to help you level up. We all lead someone. The question is, are we leading well, exceptionally well? So join me on a quest, not for perfection, but absolutely for exceptional leadership. Hey, welcome back. So today I want to talk about a basic truth that I hope doesn't make your eyes glaze over, but I can tell you when I go into clients' places of business as a business coach through P4 Power Coaching, I often find that there are issues in a very basic area. And it's overlooked, I think, because it's not got a lot of bells and whistles to it or that type of thing. But you know what? It's crucial and it's foundational. And that's the efficiency of your supply chain, because you want to make sure that it's a profitable supply chain. And this month, I'm focusing on strengthening profitability. Why? Because supply chains touch nearly every aspect of your business, from procurement and manufacturing to distribution and customer service. This is true of service-based businesses as well as those that are product-based. So, efficient procurement strategies can lead to cost savings by ensuring you're sourcing materials or products at the best possible price. It means regularly reviewing suppliers, renegotiating contracts, and exploring group purchasing options, because those can also help boost your bottom line. But again, whether you are in a product producing business or a service offering business, you need supplies. You have to have some level of supplies to keep your business going. So one of the ways that you can help boost net profitability for your business is to look at supply chains. So let's first talk about manufacturing if you create products. But by streamlining your production process, you can reduce waste, improve quality, improve output, and speed up delivery times to customers. Techniques like Lean and Six Sigma can be incredibly useful here, and they can help eliminate inefficiencies and raise that productivity level. And I know this because so many times when I go in and I work with clients, and especially if I have a client and net profitability is an issue, one of the first things that I'm looking at is their supply chain and their processes. I want to make sure that they're getting the best possible price they can on the things that they're paying for, but I also want to make sure that their people are as efficient as possible in the jobs that they do. There is probably more profit suck to inefficiencies in the workplace than to anything else I've ever seen. But it's also one of those invisible drains. If you follow me at all, you know that in P4 Power Coaching, my 4 Ps stand for people, processes, performance, and profitability. So I focus a lot on profitability, besides the fact that this month, that is the primary focus of my podcast. But I also often share the invisible drains that I see in businesses. And one of my ongoing and ultimate goals and objectives for every business coaching client that I have is for me to help them plug their invisible drains. And invisible drains are simply those things that steal money, time, and energy from the organization and its people. But every invisible drain does not necessarily mean that you can't see it. It could mean that people are ignoring it or avoiding it or talking themselves out of it. Sometimes it is truly they just don't see it. They're blind to it. But regardless of what that situation is, invisible drains can do a business in if leadership is not intentional to plug those drains. And efficiency drains suck a whole lot of money as well as time and energy out of businesses every day. I've never yet went into a business that I did not find some kind of inefficiencies that were negatively impacting the net profits of that company. Okay, so I mentioned some things about manufacturing because that's a product service business. But if you provide services, just know that human effort is what is manufactured. And for service-based businesses, it is no less important to streamline processes. So time, supply costs, effort, and energy are not wasted. And we do need to remember that the more efficient we are at helping paying customers or clients, the more money we can bring in. This is a definite boost to profits. So the more products that we can produce in a shorter amount of time, the more profit margin we have. The more customers or clients that we can serve in a shorter amount of time, the more profits that we have. So there's a massive payoff to doing this. But not only is there a massive payoff to the financial part of it, but also to our own human spirits. Because when we know that we've improved someone else's life, then that makes us feel better. And it does energize us and it helps propel us to doing even more. Well, the next link in the chain is distribution. So efficient logistics and transportation can significantly reduce costs. So optimizing delivery routes, consolidating shipments, and using real-time tracking to quickly address issues can all help improve efficiency. I have one coaching client right now that within the last, this is May of 23 as I'm recording this. So in the last 5 months, we have identified a few different ways that they could optimize their shipping. So they do produce products. And by shipping differently, so by grouping some of the products together, was one thing that worked really well for them. So they consolidated shipments, but also that real-time tracking really benefited them and helped them identify other ways that they could save money on shipping. And let me tell you something. We're not talking about a few bucks here. We are talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars of savings that they will realize this year in 2023. But the really cool thing that I love about helping clients identify things like that is that kind of increased net profit is something that's going to be duplicated year after year. Because now that they have this process in place for more efficiently shipping, for more intentionally shipping, they will be able to replicate that every year from this point forward. So not only are they going to save a couple of $100,000 this year, they're going to do that next year and the year after and the year after. Because if they didn't change anything in the process, they would have kept paying what they would have paid. They would have spent what they would have spent on their shipping. Now they're going to realize, just think about it. In 5 years, they're going to be at $1 million. That's not a drop in the bucket. Now, maybe the size of your business, maybe that wouldn't even be possible. Maybe you don't even gross that much. But here's the thing. If you look at it, not necessarily by the dollars, but by the percentage to your income, and you can view it that way, you can still see how much it would be worth your time for you to do that kind of a study and make sure that there is efficiency in how things not are necessarily that you're shipping out, but maybe even in how things are shipped to you. I've also helped clients with that, where they were able to save substantial freight dollars because of reaching out to their vendors and some of their supplies or materials or, other things that were shipped to them, they were able to consolidate. They were able to do some real-time tracking. They were able to change shipping schedules and save themselves a lot of money. Well, all that money that you save goes to your net profits. And then let's not forget about the final link in this chain, and that's the customer. An efficient supply chain ensures that products are delivered on time and as expected. And an efficient supply chain in a service-based business ensures that service is delivered on time and as expected. And this leads to happier customers, fewer complaints, fewer returns, more repeat business, and an increase in referrals. And let's face it, without happy customers, there can be no net profits. So one thing that I highly recommend is that you do a regular audit of your supply chain. This is key to profitability. Look for bottlenecks. Look for outdated processes or areas of waste. Consider using technology to improve visibility and control. There are all kinds of software that you can use today that we didn't have even 10 years ago, 15 years ago. So any kind of real-time insights or analytics, that's another thing that you can do to analyze your supply chain. Look at those things to help you make smarter decisions. But remember this, your supply chain is not set in stone either. It should be dynamic and adaptable. You should be able to flex and roll as needed, ready to respond to changes in demand, supplier issues, or shifts in the market. Regular audits can help you identify all of that. Regular audits can help you identify inefficiencies. They can help you cut waste. They sometimes can help you negotiate better deals and streamline operations. The impact on your bottom line from a little bit of analysis can be surprising. So let's talk about the basics of how you audit your work process. It begins with documentation, writing it down, making sure that every process in your organization, no matter how small, is clearly documented. And when I say clearly, I emphasize that word with intention. Clear over clever. You want to make sure that anyone who comes behind you who knows nothing about this process could at least figure out how to follow some rudimentary steps to do it. That's what clear means. So you don't want to use some kind of internal jargon or so many times acronyms are used. And people who work day in and day out in that and they're used to that, no problem. But somebody else who may come in and maybe it's just from a different department. Maybe you have something that necessitates someone to come in and provide support help from somewhere else. Will they understand all of that internal jargon or those acronyms? Really ask yourself that question when you're documenting your processes. You want to make sure it's very clear. And one of the things you also need to make sure is clear is who is responsible for each step. And so that probably should not be a person's name, but it should be a job label or a job definer or description or something. But just someone being able to understand who's responsible for what steps. This outline should also show the resources that are used. And where do you get the resources? Where do they come from? That's one of the big inefficiencies I see happen a lot is I'm amazed often at how many times people will just stand there with a blank look on their face or almost just walk in circles because they don't know where to get some kind of simple resource or tool. So make sure that your work process documentation spells that out. Where do they find these things? And then how much time should it take? I mean, reasonably. When you have that kind of a process in place, documented, then it makes training easier. I mean, just think the next time you have a new hire, how much faster they could learn if you had something like this. And I will tell you this, I also recommend when it's feasible to have some kind of visual sample, an example that really paints the picture for people. I'm big on painting the picture because it just saves so much time, energy, and money, by the way. So new hires, it could be helpful for. It could be helpful for leadership itself. If you don't work day in and day out on the front line of something, then you may not understand every step. Or you may have an unreasonable view of how long something should take. Sometimes just having all those pieces written out can help an exceptional leader get an accurate view of how long something should take. And that can be really helpful in those kinds of interprofessional work relationships too. And then make sure that once you've got that, you start the analysis, that you look for bottlenecks, you look for redundancies or any steps that do not add value, and involve your team in this process. They're the ones on the ground. They're the ones on the front line, and they might have insights that you don't. They may know things that you don't. But by looking at and asking it from that lens, does this add value? You might be amazed at how much really not only could be cut, but should be cut. There are so many unnecessary steps that we take. There are so many times we make things harder than they need to be. When if we would just analyze efficiencies in our processes, we could tighten that up and we could streamline more. And when we do that, it typically makes everybody happier. But something else is you want to make sure you go back and you review this and you analyze this. Again, I recommend annually going and looking at each of your process. Have the leaders that are overseeing particular departments or branches or areas, whatever kind of business you have, that you have that leadership be responsible that every year there's going to be a fresh audit of these processes because things can change. Maybe there's been some new technology that's been put in place and maybe we should be using it, but we're not using it or we're not using it optimally. That can be discovered when you do this kind of process analysis. And when it comes to cutting waste, lean methodology can be your best friend. I love the Toyota production system where they have a lean focus on reducing waste within their systems, but they simultaneously focus on maximizing productivity. It's that intentionality piece. You hear me talk about intentionality all the time. What we're intentional about, what we focus on is where we see the most improvement. So if you are concentrated on reducing waste while simultaneously maximizing productivity, it's going to happen. And all of that is going to beef up your bottom line. Lean identifies several types of waste, including overproduction, waiting, transport, overprocessing, inventory, motion, and defects. But by auditing your processes with these types of waste in mind, you can identify areas for improvement. Now, let's talk about negotiating better deals. This is not about strong arming suppliers into giving you lower prices. That is not how I operate in my life. It's about building relationships, understanding what the supplier's constraints may be, and looking for win-win situations. And sometimes asking them what a win-win situation might be. It's often amazing what other people will offer when we just ask with intentionality. Like sometimes they just don't think about it. But when you ask the question, then their brain goes into solution mode and they will find something that often works for both of you. Another thing is regularly review your contracts and don't be afraid to renegotiate if circumstances have changed. Again, minimum annually, if not semi-annually on this one. I think about even like things such as insurance. Is there something that can be renegotiated in that? Is there something in your raw materials that can be renegotiated? Is there something in the supplies that you purchase that you need for your operations that can be renegotiated? And remember, price isn't the only thing you can negotiate. You can also negotiate terms, like how long do you have before you need to repay? Delivery schedules, and even customization. These can all be parts of the negotiation process. Sometimes you can even barter, that maybe there's something you can offer them for a discount for you. I mean, just think about this. And again, talk to your people, those who are on the front lines, because they may come up with things that wouldn't have even occurred to you. And remember that streamlining operations, especially in today's world, often involves technology. Tools like project management software. Automation can drastically increase efficiency. I just have 2 warnings about project management software. 1, follow a thorough due diligence process to ensure the software you choose is truly the right fit for your business. Have representatives from all areas of your company to participate in demos and report their likes and their concerns. But don't let a salesperson throw you a canned script. Instead, insist they do a study of your business and prove to you how this technology will fit within the framework of your organization and your processes and your people. There is nothing worse than spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on software that is clunky at best in meeting your business needs. I have had clients who made that mistake before I was hired. And let me just tell you something. It's miserable. And it's even miserable for me as a business coach. I come in and there's like employee after employee after employee complaining about how we spent all this money on this project management software, but it doesn't work for us. It doesn't work for our business. It doesn't work for the way we do business. And for me as a business coach, don't get me wrong. It's not that I can't still help bring about some amazing results, but in that one area, just my insides are like, oh my gosh, I just feel so stifled because there's nothing I can do about that software. One of 2 things has to happen. Either everybody puts their heads together and they figure out how to use that software more efficiently, how to utilize it better. And I have been successful in helping some clients do just that. Or sometimes, to be honest with you, the least expensive option is to toss that one out the door and go find something that truly works. Because you can keep beating your head against the same wall every day. You can keep chasing your own tail, trying to make something work that's never going to. And all you're going to do is keep everybody miserable. And the reason that I say that buying new software could be, now mind you, I'm not saying it will be. You need to do a cost analysis on this to ensure that you're making the right decision if this is what you're considering. But if you do that and you determine that this thing is really not working for your company because it's costing your employees not just frustration and emotional angst, but it's also costing them untold amounts of time because they keep hitting brick walls, or they're bottlenecked by this, or they're getting inaccurate information. I had one client that they had bought this piece of software and they had spent over $100,000 on it. And it was supposed to have done all these great things for the company and improve efficiency and everything. Well, when I went in and I worked with leadership and strongly encourage that we look at some of the details of the complaints to see what was maybe perhaps just, maybe an employee or a few employees, they don't like it. And so they're looking for problems versus what's reality, what's factual, what data supports some of their complaints and concerns. And when we looked at all of that, oh my gosh, it was astounding. What we found was the biggest consistent complaint that employees from various areas in the organization had about the software was that they never could trust the data that this thing gave them. And so because of that, it hurts my heart when I think about this, and especially when I think about how much it hindered net profitability. So there were multiple managers that were getting these reports with this data, and they couldn't count on it, but they still felt like, well, I have to use a system, so they would get it. But then they would manually spend hours going to try and get accurate data. And then they would spend even more time comparing the accurate data that they manually went and got to what this system was giving them. And then they were spending even more time trying to figure out why. What was it that was causing the variance between those two pieces of information? There was one employee alone, one manager. And so, mind you, a manager, this would not be the highest and best use of their time. They were spending 8 to 10 hours a week on this type of practice because the data was so flawed. So just think what that manager might have been able to do in a positive, purposeful, productive way with that extra 8 to 10 hours a week for that company. Yeah, crazy, isn't it? So think about that and consider what would be the best choice. So for them, the best choice really was spending money exchanging for this old system that wasn't working. They have a new system now. They're very, very happy with it. I have another client that the verdict's still out on what the right choice is, but at least they're doing due diligence and they're looking, they're evaluating, they're assessing that cost analysis. But for you, really be careful to make sure that you choose the right project management software if that's something that you need for your business or want. Don't make everybody feel stuck because you got the wrong thing. Don't invest so much money in something that you feel like you can't make a change, because that kind of misery, it can last for years or even decades. Sadly, I've seen it, and it just makes me go, ugh. Okay, second, don't throw technology at the problem. Make sure that any technology you purchase actually addresses a real need for your business. And also make sure that your team is trained to use it effectively. Sometimes software is blamed when the problem is a simple matter of none to little training on how to truly utilize this time-saving tool. Or even worse, the company didn't need all the bells and whistles that were sold to them because the software doesn't really meet that particular business's needs. So make sure before you spend any money that you know what needs for your business that this software is going to meet. Make sure that it's going to do so effectively, and then make sure that your team is trained to utilize it to the best possible purpose. Okay, so in conclusion, I just want to say this. Remember that when it comes to auditing your work processes, this practice is not a one-time thing. I said it earlier, but it's worth reiterating. Auditing processes should be part of your regular operations, done at least annually. The business world is always changing, so staying efficient and net profitable means continually adapting and improving. As an exceptional leader, It's your job to make sure your company stays on top of both. So look at your processes, look at your technology, look at your training, look at all of this to make sure you are as efficient and effective as possible. And I promise that for you, it's going to make you exceptional. Until next time, stay intentional and be exceptional. Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Exceptional Leadership Podcast. There's magic in meeting with an objective, and I always have an objective for you, not only in these episodes, but also from the other resources I offer on my website, anitabrooks.com. That's ANITABROOKS.com. There you'll find information on digital courses, webinars, books, workbooks, of course, my in-person P4 power coaching for businesses and organizations. And if you need a speaker for your conference or your strategic retreat, I'm your gal. But I'm also excited to let you know about a new service that we're offering. For less than half the price of a daily Starbucks latte for a month, you can join our P4 Power Coaching community. This is a monthly membership where you'll get insider tips. And you'll also be able to join our monthly Zoom meetings that are one part strategy sessions, one part mastermind, one part networking, one part coaching. I can promise you, you'll not only learn from me, but you'll learn from others in the group. We'll also have monthly webinars as part of the P4 Power Coaching community, and we'll have coaching resources and exercises. And you'll get first opportunities and special offers for many of the other things that we have to offer. And of course, you will get leadership encouragements. The P4 Power Coaching community is all about growth, success, and celebrating our wins. And remember, it's never too late for a fresh start with fresh faith. So embrace your exceptional leadership impact with fresh resolve to make the difference you were made for.